Hi, I'm Laura Sikorski, host of Sikorski's Think Abouts, and welcome to the show today. I greatly appreciate your clicking in. Our show is designed to help you in operations areas of customer service, customer experience, and technology. Today, joining me is Adrian Miller. Adrian is a personal sales trainer, and she's been doing it for just a little over 25 years, and we know each other at that period of time, so that kind of makes it even greater. She does a lot of business development consulting. She's a sales training expert. I think the fact that she works for startups of Fortune 500 companies, very passionate about her programs, and has written actually 2 books and The Blatant Truth, right?
Yep.
And so with that, I want to welcome you for taking the time today. Adrian also, and I do want you guys to remember this, is also president of the Adrian Miller Networking Group, and that is a fabulous group on Long Island of over 400 members in the city and in the Nassau-Suffolk County, and
Yep.
so you do need to take a look at that at the end of the show. Our topic today is something that has always been very dear to my heart. You have customer service and you have sales, and one is always fighting with the other in some way, shape, or form. And Adrian selected a match made in heaven. So I'm interested to say, why did you choose the name?
Because if customer service and sales aren't in love with each other and really marching in sync within the company, one or both will suffer. So they need to coordinate, they need to communicate, and they need to know they're looking at the same goal, and instead of being at odds with each other, seeing how they can get there together.
One of the things that we'd like to talk about today is a little bit of how they are really a hand-in-hand kind of department. They're not me or they or you or we. Why do you think, if they're not working together, why is it a disservice to the customer?
Well, first off, if sales and marketing really don't communicate with customer service, remember, they're the people that are getting the phone calls and potentially the emails from customers. So if they're not fully apprised and aware of what's going on, if you will, in sales and marketing, they don't have the information they need to communicate correctly and accurately with the customers who are calling into them. So if they're not aware of a promotion that's running, or a problem that's come up in a particular item, or a special that is canceled, then they're going to give wrong information and they're going to get more angry customers. So they need to be aware.
Totally agree. I used to work for a hotel company, and we found my responsibility was to get the information out to the field, and that was a global field. However, we consistently had people in corporate headquarters who would announce a program, and then there we are sitting in the call center and not knowing what at all to say to the customer. And it just is a bad impression.
Right. People are calling up and say, "Hi, I'm calling about the," and then you're sitting there going, "Oh my gosh, what are they talking about?"
Yeah, and you're trying, and it's very difficult to say, "Excuse me, I don't know." Right. I think the fact that it is a disservice, and we do urge, Adrian in particular urges, if you're going to do some sales and marketing, always make sure that the people that are going to get the phone calls, get the emails, get the chats, need to know what's going on.
Absolutely.
So inside sales and customer service, one and the same. Let's talk about what the rep needs to do, the customer service rep.
Okay, so first off, they're one and the same in a lot of companies. And in some companies, no, they're not. Inside sales are off on their own, and their job is specifically to generate sales. Customer service, their job is specifically to answer questions and solve problems. But in my mind, oftentimes they're transferring calls back and forth to each other. They're not really certain what the other is saying, and the customer is caught in between. So that one key contact person oftentimes can be more beneficial for the customer. The company has to train those people efficiently, though, and effectively, so they're able to wear both hats. Okay, so what it means for the company is when a phone call comes in, that person has to be able to answer questions, they have to be able to overcome problems, deal with them efficiently and effectively, and ultimately satisfy the customer, but they also have to be able to be persuasive and not only take an order, but really make an order. And then once they do that by answering questions and showing customers how something else might really work best for them, be able to play upon the opportunities and upsell additional things or cross-sell additional things that would add value to the company, would add value to the customer, because it's ultimately beneficial for them to know about and purchase that, and add value to themselves because their job is more robust, it's more interesting, and more fully blown so that they can have a better communication with the customer, not just be a robot.
Totally agree with that. One of the things I've seen a few companies doing is really perfecting the handoff from sales to customer service.
Yeah.
Almost like having a debriefing meeting. Hey, this week we got the X new customers. Let me tell you a little bit about them. You Rep A may be assigned to them, so they may call you directly. But it's the need to have that handoff. And I think a lot of companies don't do that. They just have the reps there and they don't give them the information that they need to satisfy the customer.
Absolutely. And a lot of companies don't pay as much attention as should be paid to customer service. That's the customer save department as well as cross-selling and upselling and all that. But that's that last communication point, okay? If things have gone awry, that's the point where that person has the power to save and make even a more passionate customer versus have them just go away. It just happened to me the other day where my customer service rep truly made me a raving fan, because without me even asking for what they offered, I explained my situation and they said, "Oh my gosh, Adrian, I'm so sorry to hear that. Here's what I'm going to do," without me asking, without me begging, without me getting angry. And they did it. And it happened the way they said it was going to happen.
See, and that's that whole concept of being proactive.
Yep.
When you have a customer on the line, you are their advocate. You are their ambassador. You are that channel, whatever you want to call it in today's environment, that gets the customer happy so that when they get off the phone, number one, you've developed a very loyal customer who is going to tell those X amount of people. And certainly if they tell it on social media, boom, one sentence is going to go to 150 to 200,000 people.
Absolutely.
And that's what I think a lot of companies don't realize today. Let's talk about this upselling and cross-selling. There are so many people that, you could just tell, like when I call one of the telecommunications companies and you want to change your service, right?
Yeah.
And the next thing you know, they're telling you all about this stuff. And I'm saying, I'm not interested.
Yeah.
So how do you stop that from happening when somebody's saying, hey, you got to get your sales up or something?
Yeah. Well, I think that oftentimes the customer service reps are held to a scripted presentation that forces them to follow a path that perhaps they shouldn't be on. So the first thing in training is to listen to the reason the customer is calling and attend to that reason so that they are 100% satisfied, 100% satisfied on why it's all about them. It's their agenda.
That's it.
So take care of that first. And then, if appropriate, if there is a benefit in it for the customer, to start to discuss either a cross-sell opportunity, an upsell opportunity, or anything that is off the original path of what the caller wanted in the first place. But it's very sensitive, and I just had a terrible experience with a company I shall not mention, that when I call to return the item, then subjected it subjected me to a litany of resell attempts that every single one I said, you're not hearing my words. There is absolutely no way that I still want to continue with this because it no longer makes sense for my business. I counted 11 attempts and 22 minutes of resell, which I then put on Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn.
Go, girl.
And had a myriad of people telling me they had the same nasty experience with this company, where when somebody calls to cancel, I understand trying to save the business. I get it. But when the business no longer makes sense for the customer, then you got to let go.
Right.
You got to let
That was
go.
like that infamous call that went on the internet, right? And they videoed it. And,
Absolutely.
But it must be the industry, I guess. I don't know. But there are so many things that can get you so angry. And you have to say, excuse me, you're not listening to what I'm saying. And I think what we both know as trainers is that if you don't teach active listening, don't start thinking what you're going to say. Think about what the customer is saying at that point in time.
Right. Well, unfortunately, I think this one was a function of if you don't follow the script, you're being monitored, you will get fired scenario.
Oh, gosh.
Because I would say to the rep, I know you have to go to the next resell attempt. Is there any way that you can skip it and get to the last screen and thank me for my business and hope I come back again sometime?
And have I satisfied the reason for your call today, right?
Right.
And I know, folks, I know you think we're making fun of the industry. We aren't, but we want you to take a look at what your training programs are and to understand it is not necessary at certain points of a conversation.
Think like the customer.
Right. It's thank you for that. Well, I totally. So let's talk about when we just kind of covered most of these. When the phones are ringing off the hook and there's no coverage, obviously we're not going to upsell. You have to really almost take your cue from the caller.
Right. The customer is incredibly irate. You cannot calm them down. You do everything you can. You settle what their original reason was, and they're still very annoyed at you. Come on, this is a time to let this person go. You have done everything you can. There may be other things going on in their day that you don't even know about. Press for time. The customer is calling from a cell phone. They're standing on the subway platform. They're on their car. The babies are screaming. The meeting for them has started. Let it go, because again, they don't want to continue with you. Your phone's ringing off the hook. There's no coverage. You can't keep the call going with the risk of all the other callers going into a voicemail queue or being kept on hold for too long. Again, you have to look at your staffing issues if that's a problem. And if you're just not certain what to say, if your cross or upsell is going to just sound weird, wrong topic, wrong approach, ask your staff, ask your management rather, to train you on what you should say, provide you with best practices, perhaps give you a call guide, and then and only then are you equipped to do cross-sell and upsell.
Well, and I think the one point you made, the reps should ask for training, and the floor walkers, the supervisors on the work floor, need to listen for those cues, because that pullback training is extremely important, and many times a rep doesn't want to say, I need training, because they're afraid that may cause them not to be looked upon favorably and may not get a great review. But for me, I think if a rep asks for help, that's the best thing since sliced bread.
And for me, as a trainer, some of the best training is accomplished by reps being able to hear their own calls. And you know that as well. Whatever tape recording system you have in place, to make it a part of the ongoing training, to have reps hear representative sampling of their calls, because adults self-learn. They will pick up on when, wow, I shouldn't have cross-sold. That was all wrong.
Right. And I think especially, hitting on that recording concept, it is so good for a representative to listen to what they say, because they don't understand how it can be interpreted or misinterpreted in some cases. So what does upselling really mean for the business owner?
Increase revenues, and not only because, okay, I've cross-sold another item onto this call, but you're going to retain more customers. If it's done well, you have more satisfied customers, because if you're upselling or cross-selling, you're telling a customer about something they perhaps didn't know about. You're even showing them about ways they can save money by ordering more, because each item costs less money, and in fact, they're going to need the larger quantity at some point in time.
Right.
Increase revenues because you'll probably have less turnover, because it's going to be a more robust, satisfying job for the reps. And increase revenue because, yes, you will cross-sell, you will increase the products that are pulled through by the phone calls. So it's a win-win-win. And I think when it's not a win-win-win for the customer, win for the rep, win for the company, that's when something's not working. But as a business owner, yes, increase revenues.
And I also think that a lot of times business owners don't take advantage of the wealth of knowledge that is on the work floor and those customer service reps. And if you say, you know, what's happening on the floor today? What are you having problems with upselling? Talk to me about that. Then put these reps in a room and say, let's come up with our own way that we think we could sell better. And rather than have our new training program or whatever that may be.
No one speaks to as many customers per day as the customer service rep. And to not tap into what they're hearing in a very qualitative manner is silly. It's really silly.
It is silly. I'm looking at some of the questions that I thought of asking, and you pretty much have answered just about every single one. I think the last question that I had was, how can companies make certain that they are upselling correctly? I mean, what do you think? I mean, I know it's revenue, because obviously that would increase. But what else?
The qualitative part, listen to those calls.
Right.
Make a point of listening to the reps, monitoring the calls. And then when and if you hear something that isn't happening, if they're not cross-selling effectively because they're insecure or not confident about the words, or if they're not sure of the timing, or they're not doing it consistently. They have to do it consistently, because you don't hit a home run every time you swing the bat.
Right.
So you have to listen to it, have reps do it consistently. If that is being done, you're definitely going to see an increase in revenue. Absolutely.
Well, we have a direct message on Twitter for us, and this gal Joan, she writes, how can I get sales and marketing to let my department know what they are doing? And I know we addressed a little bit of this earlier in our conversation, but I think it's important for our viewers to know what they really have to do so that customer service and sales is a match made in heaven.
Yeah, well, this is a great time to even talk about that, because we're heading into a new year. And so new processes and procedures can be put in play with the blessing of the new year. And the fact is, have a meeting. Sales, marketing, and whoever is responsible for the customer service operations should have a weekly meeting. And they need to be apprised of what's going on, to find out. Sales and marketing should find out from customer service what problems they're having. You know, sometimes marketing has decided this is just the best promotion since sliced bread. It's awesome, right? Everyone's going to love it. Only to find out people are calling in and they don't understand it. They're confused. They don't really think it's so great.
And they're using words that make no sense.
Yeah, you got to talk to each other. So once a week, schedule a meeting. It doesn't have to be an hour. 20 minutes, the start of a week. 20 minutes, lunchtime, middle of the week, whatever it may be. But conversation and communications are the key to making it work.
Well, I cannot believe it. We are just about out of time. So, folks, if you'd like to reach Adrian Miller, her email address is amiller@adrianmiller.com. Her direct Twitter is @AMST, and her office number is 516-767-9400. 9288. And with that, Adrian, I want to thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
joining
It's
me
great.
today. It was
Thank
a great
you.
morning, and I think you've gave a lot of great think-abouts for our audience. Next week, December 29th, I'm going to take a little time off, and we are going to rerun the call center technology episode with Mike Conti, and I think it was a very well received, and for those of you who have not seen it, enjoy. On January 5th, back from the holidays, we are going to have a session on strategic planning, particularly on succession planning. If you are planning to leave the company and you are an executive level of manager or director, what you have to do to get ready to do that in 2015. And our guest will be Tracy Holloman, Purposeful Leadership Solutions. With that, I want to thank you all for clicking in, and have a perfect rest of the day.